How do you cure a fever? How do you choose the most nutritious food? And how do you ensure that you can live a long and healthy life? We don't know. In fact, for the first time in modern history, it's been estimated that the next generation may have a significantly shorter lifespan than the previous one. I find this to be an amazing and frightening prediction, given both the resources and knowledge that we have access to today. And while there are many contributing factors, I'm going to focus on one that I feel to be one of the most important, and that's the idea that science is making us sick. That's right, I said it, science. So let's step back about 300 years to the 18th century philosopher René Descartes. Descartes was a real info buff, and he studied the natural world. And he proposed a framework for the modern scientific method, but he wanted it to be as pure as mathematics. And as such, he limited himself to studying things that to just the physical world. And he felt science should only concern itself with those things that we can objectively observe and measure and analyze and quantify. And for 300 plus years, this approach has worked really well. In fact, it's been so successful, it's become the default mode for which we set about to solve most of our problems. And we think that if we can just measure things precisely enough, that science should be able to answer all of our questions or predict all of our outcomes. And while this reductionist analytical framework is a very easy view to take of science, it's not complete. And to see why, we'll jump ahead to the 20th century to a physicist by the name of Heisenberg. And he's discovered in particle physics that we cannot simultaneously know both the exact position and velocity of a particle. This is known as the uncertainty principle. This is fundamental to physics, and it means that there is limitations to how accurately we can measure physical objects, something that would have made Descartes a little bit uncomfortable. Now, another wrench was thrown into Descartes' framework by a mathematician named Gödel, and he's known for his, one of those theorems, his incompleteness theorem. And in plain language, the incompleteness theorem says that for certain mathematical systems, we cannot predict what the outcome is. It doesn't mean that we can't stumble upon the answer somehow, but we're not able to prove mathematically how we got to that answer. Now think about that for a moment. In math, the purest of the pure sciences, we cannot reduce, measure, or calculate things well enough in order to predict all of those answers. Now, if we couple the incompleteness theorem with the uncertainty principle, we can see that science isn't as cut and dry as we'd like to believe. There's variation and nuance and quality, things that Descartes was trying to rule out. And while I've taken some liberties in extrapolating from these theorems and principles, and we can't just apply them as blanket statements to how science is conducted, that's just the point, though. Neither can we take the sheerly reductionist analytical approach that Descartes was proposing. Unfortunately, that's what we've been doing. And so if we bring it back to health, we now live in a day and age when our power to collect information and facts has never been greater. And this is what many of our health policy analysts are doing. They think that if we look at smaller and smaller aspects of our health, that this is and we publish those, that this is going to improve our health. And so volumes and volumes of health journals are published each year. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's an important part of research. But more often than not, what ends up happening is those facts sit in isolation on library shelves and in databases with no idea about how they relate to one another. Moreover, with the nearly ubiquitous access that the internet has given us to these facts, people are taking them and thinking satisfied that they are scientific, applying them haphazardly to things like diet plans and exercise routines and lifestyle modifications. And nowhere is this more prevalent in the world of apps. The last time that I checked the Apple Store, I estimated there to be over 26,000 health apps. 26,000. What do we need that many for? Much of what they're doing is causing confusion, misdirection, and ultimately poorer health. It's said that we are living in the age of information, and it's true. So much so it seems that our pursuit of information has overwhelmed our ability to use it constructively. I think it's time for a change, and I think we need to move from the age of information to the age of interpretation. We need people to look up from their microscopes, see what one another are doing, and start working together. And we need people who can help us to identify not just how to organize that information, but to see the connections between the facts so that we can better answer questions like how to live a long and healthy life, how to choose the most nutritious foods, and how to cure a fever. Thank you.